Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering Arena Brawl video, where this time we'll be once again revisiting a deck that we've done before, this time named Under a Star-Strewn Sky, which is the Dovin Grand Arbiter fliers deck. So with the addition of Theros, there's been a few cards that have obviously entered the limelight, which are just straight up going in, no questions about it, and those were Thrix the Sudden Storm and Dream Trawler, given that both of these are flyers and both of them are really, really good. So Dream Trawler obviously is a staple in Azorius control, and given that we are essentially a flyers control variant of sorts, it fits. It's able to draw additional cards, it's able to take advantage of us drawing additional cards, and it's also able to then protect itself and gain us some life back. We also then have Elspeth Conquers Death, which similarly works quite well, as it's very solid removal for non-land permanents, and we then also get to bring back one of our more powerful creatures that the opponent's likely going to want to remove, or alternatively Planeswalkers. So we do also then have Thrix, as mentioned, which has it's flash flying, so we're able to keep it, keep the mana open on our turn, and bring it in at the end of the opponent's turn, and then our top end with Elspeth Conquers Death, Safara, Dream Trawler, Warden, and Deployed doesn't fit, but Warden. All of those are able to be covered by Thrix's protection and cost less. So we definitely get quite a bit of value there, and if they obviously counter Thrix in that sense, then they've spent their, hopefully, counterspell mana for us to play it during our turn anyway. And it's mainly just those three cards that have actually ended up going in. Although there is one other card which, just when I was checking, I noticed I hadn't stuck in that I probably should have, which was Field of Ruin. And Temple of Enlightenment, since I've pulled that. I'll just add those quickly now. Just because of the fact that that's an additional tapped land, but gives us the Scry, which is obviously beneficial, and Field of Ruin allows us to answer Field of the Dead. So that's the deck. I will save those changes, yes. Now, this video is recorded marginally different from the rest of them, as the clips I got were from a few days that I basically, I was busy with other stuff, so I wasn't able to record over the games whilst I was playing them, and instead I just recorded the matches themselves. So I'm going to be essentially narrating along with them as they play. It's sort of in a bit of a test to see how that goes, as well as just to observe the difference when you're actually playing the game versus how I react after the fact, because I recorded them quite a while ago, and it's only really now that I'm going to go back and see them, so I can't remember the details of the games themselves, so I'm kind of going into it new. Yeah, so with that in mind, let's get back into those games. Alrighty, and we started off with Heliod. So this hand looks pretty acceptable to me. It has 3 mana, so we get our commander, we get everything in our hand, I think, except the Archon able to be played. Tail's End is there, which is a good answer for the Heliod. And then, obviously, Brazen Borrower can answer it as well, to a minor extent. So Alseid hits the field, which isn't ideal. The protection it's able to provide is pretty valuable, as well as being able to have lifelink. Them getting the Signet also gives them a significant amount of ramp, but it's not too overwhelming at this stage. So yes, we're able to now just keep open our Brazen Borrower and our Tail's End. Fairy Guide Mother, I believe, is a sorcery, but we've not got any targets for it anyway, so that doesn't matter too much. Eidolon of Obstruction is an absolute pain, since now playing Dovin on curve isn't the right play, in no stretch of the imagination, since first of all, the first strike means that it's able to punch through anyway. And second of all, so I won't be able to trade into it, and second of all, I won't be able to activate Dovin. So it does, at the very least, offset things a little. I think I'm debating whether or not to use the... Yeah, I guess I decided to use it in the end. Just to bounce the Eidolon. Presumably thinking that, well, I'll play Dovin. Although it did actually manage to get to waste their Alcide instead. So I think that was probably my thought process, is I can get rid of the Eidolon, which would allow me to play Dovin. Hypnotic Sprite was also a great draw. It gives me another counterspell, which was another way to answer Heliod. Obviously Gideon is great value, so I had to hit that instead. But it also meant that I had things pretty set up reasonably enough to play around. And I believe here's where I was debating whether or not to play something, play Dovin and be able to activate it, or get down Hypnotic Sprite. And obviously I went and grabbed the island so that I could play Hypnotic Sprite and keep Tail's End open. The Pridemate hitting the field is a bit concerning, and is definitely something that I want to deal with. Obviously can't stop the Eidolon of Obstruction at the moment. Sephara is a good draw if I'm able to get the game to last out long enough to tap down 4 things to get it down, since I can then block their big things indefinitely. So obviously I took some time to consider my plays here, since I want to have Tail's End open still, because they've not played Heliod. They've almost definitely not played Heliod because they know I've got a counter or something open for it. So I'm obviously debating whether or not I play Dovin, activate it, play Fairy Guide Mother to get a buff to Hypnotic Sprite and attack, or to just drop it anyway. And I decided to not play anything and just keep Tail's End open, which turned out to be the right decision. They decided they'd take their time to cast Heliod that turn, and that allows us to put them back a bit. Although they do still have the mana to just straight up play Heliod again the following turn, which isn't quite so ideal. They gain some life, so Pridemate gets bigger. Sphinx of Foresight is a big body that's able to provide some good protection. It's able to scry things up. Though Archon of Absolution is also a good play. It's got pro-white, so nothing they can do can touch it. It's a fantastic blocker. And yeah, they really can't answer it unless they're running something like Meteor Golem in their deck. Plus it also requires them to pay for their attacks, so if they do drop Heliod, then they can't attack at all. Which means they don't gain any life, which means stuff doesn't grow. So yeah, they drop the Heliod. It is a creature, so thanks to the Archon I can deal with that easily enough. Fortunately, they do realise that they can't attack because of the Archon. I've seen a lot of people try to attack whilst an Archon's on the field, making things cost more and not figuring out why they can't. So yes, I'm debating here whether or not, once again, to set up the Dovin or go for the Sphinx. And I think it is a plus with this one. I decided to go for the Sphinx, since, yeah, both ways I'd be able to get Sephara down, because I did want that down ASAP. Obviously, it does leave me a bit more open this turn, but Sephara is a reasonable threat. And, yeah, understandably, Prison Realm gets to eat Sephara. So yeah, here we go. Here's their attack with all, but they can only attack with 2, because, once again, Archon of Absolution. Unfortunately, they do actually realise what's going on there. However, this means that whilst they pushed a lot of damage through, they didn't actually have any lifelink. And that aerial assault is perfect. I'm able to get rid of the Pride Mate. Doesn't get rid of the Devotion for Heliod. I decided I'd play Dovin first, so I gain one more life from creating a Thopter. And now my health's back up to 15. I'm not in a critical zone. I've got the Archon of Absolution, stopping them from playing things and attacking in with everything too easily. And now I've got 2 reasonable blockers that can just stop whatever they throw at me. Now, Ajani is a great drop here for them. It's able to create their Pride Mates, so they can start growing that. Unfortunately, Archon of Absolution does just shut that down, and it's not going to last an additional turn. I'm not going to let it. Yes, Thrix. So I now have a flash play to once again surprise them with another creature that can attack, can get some good damage in. Obviously debating whether to push Dovin up to start getting card advantage, or to create more Thopters. I'd personally say that, yeah, more Thopters would be better here, since I want to take out Ajani, and I want to keep my blockers up, since I'm not exactly in the critical zone yet. I'm not under too much pressure. Yeah, those 2 can just take out Ajani. I'm not punching face, so the Dovin Plus wouldn't have gained anything. And I've now got enough blockers to block all of their stuff, as well as the fact that I've got Thrix in hand to get an additional blocker that they won't be expecting, hopefully. That does get rid of the Archon, so that does hurt a bit, but it does also clear out their board. So it's a fair trade. I could have also flashed in Thrix just because he is an elemental giant. Now, here is the time to actually start plussing, since I don't want to... Although I guess I could have minus Dovin, played Dovin, and then plussed him. That wouldn't have been too bad of a play. But, hey. This way I still have the Castle Ardenvale I can make work. They've got their Realm Cloaked, which does make Heliod a creature, so... although, yeah, once again, Castle Ardenvale can create a human token to just block that. That Absorb is great. I can now make a Thopter. I can use Castle Ardenvale to create a blocker, and for the moment at least, they can't punch through. I'm able to just tank everything. I'm now just waiting to get some form of removal to clear out their board, or some other creature to start punching through. Now, Heliod can give lifelink, so that is a thing they can do, and then that will start making things bigger. It also stops me from punching them down to death, but it's still very much up in the sky on how this game's going to turn out. They're obviously able to gain a lot of life and put counters on things to just keep getting their things bigger. But I can, at the moment at least, indefinitely keep creating tokens. And Giant Killer comes in to kill the Giant in an absolutely perfect draw. I think I'm just now deciding whether or not I wait and do it during their turn, which I think I do, just because they're going to want to pay to give it lifelink again. So I'm able to then take it out at that point, and it also stops Heliod being a creature. Angel of Vitality, straight up absorbed. It's a flying blocker, and I don't want flying blockers. Daybreak Chaplain, on the other hand, absolutely fine. It's not exactly a scary creature. But they now make their attack. They've got the mana to give lifelink. Don't do it now. Yeah, block the Realm Cloaked to look like I'm preventing the largest amount of damage. And now I kill it, since they didn't react to giving it lifelink. I guess they figured I had something because it didn't activate Castle Ardenvale. But now Heliod's no longer a creature. I now plus Dovin, get some loyalty up on him. Now it is obviously very easy for them to still make Heliod a creature. So I'm not out of the woods yet. But I can drop my Giant Killer. And that will be able to tap down any big things, like Heliod, if it becomes a creature again, which only needs 1 devotion, so they're not too far off. But this way, I then still have the Ardenvale mana, so I've still got a chump blocker. The 1 damage from Daybreak Chaplain's not too scary. If they don't have anything, then they're not. I'm not feeling too threatened. Yeah, they just go face with Daybreak. So I just create my token. I guess I could have blocked with Giant Killer and it wouldn't have necessarily killed it. But at the same time I didn't want to risk them buffing Daybreak Chaplain in any way. Because if I lose the Giant Killer then I lose my way of keeping the field under control. Tithe Taker's just a little bit too late here. That's actually not too bad, since all it hits is Dovin. And yeah, I've got the mana to replay Dovin. And Stolen by the Fae gives me a nice bounce option. So I think, let's see here, what can I do? So 5 mana would play Dovin, so I could then only Stolen for the Fae for 2 if I play the land in hand, which does bounce both the Chaplain and the Tithe Taker. It does leave open the mana to then tap something down with Giant Killer. Yeah, I do think that Dovin is the play here. Lifelink does make this game just keep going on and on, since obviously, yeah, since I'm not able to quite beat them down as fast as they're gaining life, thanks to Heliod. Yeah, now the question is, do I decide to bounce Daybreak Chaplain so they don't gain life or have to pay for life? No, I think it looks like I don't. I think I should still play that Plains. I mean, I know it makes it look like I've got a few more cards in hand, but yeah, the Stolen by the Fae could come in handy. And yeah, I'm getting to the point where the life is becoming a thing, so I'm guessing they're just going to gain life off of this. They might do the Scry, actually. No, yeah, they're gaining life. They're going in for the kill. Blast Zone fortunately can't kill my tokens. I'd say Blast Zone for 1 here gets rid of the Giant Killer, which would be reasonable. I think that's the only thing it gets rid of. 3 to get rid of my Dovin's not ideal. Just because of the fact that it also gets rid of their Prison Realm, their Mana Geode. 2, definitely not ideal for them, since that hits most of their stuff. Yeah, double attack with Heliod. I believe I double block here. I guess it would be reasonable to not attack with Thrix at this stage, so I can keep it open and block the Daybreak Chaplain. Then they have to do something to grow it ahead of time for it to survive. Alright, now, I definitely think this is a Stolen by the Fae moment. It's just, what do I steal? Presumably Heliod. But I think what I really want is a counterspell or some other way to deal with Heliod for when they play it back down. Though I think I've gone through the majority of them. 3 for Heliod, though, does mean that they've got to reinvest in it. It's not immediately able to generate them value. I can still create a token with Castle Ardenvale. Yeah, I think I've realised that not attacking with Thrix and keeping that open for Daybreak Chaplain is the right play. And I'm just deciding whether or not I want to use Stolen by the Fae now, or wait and see if they play anything bigger so I can get more, whether I draw a Divine Visitation to make all of these fairies into angels, or whether I'm just deciding what's most valuable to bounce. Because I guess I could theoretically... Yeah, if I played my land... No, that's 3. Oh yeah, Thrix makes it cheaper at that point. So I could have theoretically, had I played my land, played Thrix. Bounced Thrix, made a bunch of flying tokens, and then flown over. And then replayed Thrix. But no, I do think bouncing Heliod was the best play. So they're buffing up their spirit, which is fine. It stops all of my 1/1s attacking. Heliod comes down again. So now I don't have to tap Heliod with Giant Killer. So I'd presumably tap down... Yeah, the Prince. Because if they attack with... Oh, and they decide to call it there. I don't think that the game was out of the woods yet for either side, but I guess they probably were just fed up of playing, because that game went on for quite some time. That was a good 15 minutes or so of gameplay. And yeah, it was looking like we were just stuck in a stalemate. So for our next game, we've got Reese. This hand's not absolutely the worst. If I draw a land, it's keepable, but it's also an incredibly risky one. And this is a very mono-white hand, which also requires me to draw a land. But it's got the Sphinx of Foresight, so I think this one would be keepable. The Sphinx should theoretically be able to find me that blue land I need. Everything else in hand I can play, and I can play on curve. I would like a 2-drop as well. So, yeah, submit that. That is a whole lot of not blue. I was debating that Giant Killer there, but yeah, Reese is going to go wide, not too tall. And that's the other awkward thing with Tail's End, is I can't counter Reese with it. Reese comes down turn 1, and there's nothing you can do to stop that unless they don't play it turn 1. And there's the island, so everything's looking good. Now it's just a matter of debating what my turn 3 play is. Angel of Vitality can come down and be a 4/4. Mace of the Valiant, however, gets more value if Angel comes down. Dovin can start producing 1/1s, so a lot of reasonable plays. It's just a question as to which one I go for. I'd probably go Angel, yeah, just because Reese, the longer the game goes on, the more they can double their tokens. Things can get really scary really quickly. This stops them from attacking, it applies more pressure, gains me more life from Healer's Hawk. Unfortunately, that does also make it a valid target for the Wanderer, which is unfortunate. So yeah, that's a little bit of irony there. So I think this is still a case of Mace. I guess past me decided with Arbiter instead. I guess it does make sense. It stops them from being able to reasonably attack, and on the plus side, they've not hit any islands yet. Any plains. So they've only got their Paradise Druid for white. Yeah, this stops them attacking with Reese. It applies more pressure, lets me grow Dovin more. And yeah, the Mace can come down next turn, and I can immediately put a counter on it. Or I can drop the Sphinx of Foresight, which I guess I'm avoiding doing until the Wanderer's off the board. Opponent had a good long think about whether or not to play more Mana Acceleration or something else, from the looks of things. I'll take the time to go grab myself an island. Now I've got my double-double. One more mana and I can get Dream Trawler down. That Hypnotic Sprite is pretty decent. But it does mean that I can't make any additional plays this turn, so it's a toss-up. I'd probably not play it. They've played a lot of acceleration, so they're likely to play something more than 3 CMC at this stage.
I stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yep, create another token. I can punch in for 2, take out the Wanderer. So yeah, it looks like they've got something there. So maybe I do keep out Hypnotic Sprite, but it would be probably like Conclave, Call of the... I can't remember what it's called. The one that creates tokens with Convoke. March of the Multitudes, there we go. Yep, there we go. And yeah, that would be 4 mana, which is 1 more than Hypnotic Sprite can do. But it's pretty good, in my opinion, that they've only got 1 creature there. It means that, yeah, Reese only doubles 1 thing. I honestly would have probably just used Reese's ability to create a token rather than spending the March of the Multitudes there. Ronus enters, it doubles all their power, but their power's all pretty pathetic. And I think this is a... Yeah, they've just decided this is over. And I think I'm wrong with those blocks. Yep, there we go. Block the Paradise Druid with that one, it kills it. Block the token rather than Reese. Yeah, that's what I thought, me. So yeah, now they've lost their Reese. They can't replay it until next turn. They've lost their Paradise Druid. I've lost Dovin, but I can replay that. However, at the same time, I can keep my Hypnotic Sprite open and counter Reese. And I think I can do that whilst also dropping Mace of the Valiant. So I'd say that would be the play. Mace of the Valiant. Attack in with everything. Keep my Hypnotic Sprite for their Reese. I'm not too worried about God Eternal Ronus, since I gain life with Dovin. Dovin minuses, which breaks us even with the damage, since I gain 1. So reducing his stuff. Yeah, if they're tutoring for something, they're going to grab Divine Visitation, and then all of their token generation is insane, so I'm not letting them go and search for that. As much as it does mean that they do get to play Reese again next turn. However, they can't do it now, so that's fine. Fairy Vandal is decent, thanks to the Dream Trawler. And I do think this is a Dream Trawler turn. I guess I'm attacking first, just in case they have something. And yeah, I think they think the game's over. Dream Trawler is able to gain me some life. It's able to draw me additional cards, so Fairy Vandal will keep getting bigger. I'm not too worried once again about God Eternal Ronus, when I can now gain 4 life minimum with Dream Trawler whenever it attacks. And yeah, there's another counterspell, so if they do get the Divine Visitation now, it's not going through. So we attack with our big things, we attack with all of our things. We draw out a card. I probably should have played Fairy Vandal first. But yeah, they called it there. Alright, and so this game appears to be against God Eternal... Aketra. I was going to say Ojutai for some reason. I was trying to remember exactly which one it was. So yeah, this is I'd say a keepable hand. I've got 2 1-mana flyers, I've got a Tail's End, I've got Winged Words, I've got Depose. Everything's playable with those 2 lands, and the Winged Words being able to be played turn 2 to draw me 2 cards means I'm likely to get an additional land. Ideally, that land's white, and yeah, Fabled Passage confirms it if I don't get it. So yeah, starting off with Spectral Sailor flashed in. I don't think they can accelerate too much to make something scary enough to be worth Tails Ending just yet, so it does give me a few turns to set up. Sunhome Stalwart's Mentor is going to be a little bit annoying, but it's not the worst. The first strike is probably going to be the more annoying bit there, but even then it's on the ground, so... And yeah, that Empyrean Eagle is equally beautiful. So here we go, drop the second island. I'm obviously debating whether to Fabled Passage and just play it safe for the 3 mana plays, but I do think Winged Words is the way to go. And it's another land, but it's not a Plains. So... we can, however, have the untapped planes with the Fabled Passage, so it does allow us to play a Terramander and keep Tail's End up. And we draw the planes, so that problem solved. Dovin Grand Arbiter, I think I'm considering it, but also not, because of the fact that the Mentor's now made it so that Fairy Guide Mother's big enough to punch him to death if I don't trade into it. And yeah, with the Sunhome Stalwart as well, I don't think Dovin would survive. This way I can play out the Spectral Sailor. Empyrean Eagle is big enough to block. So if they now attack in, then they've obviously got something. Yep. So obviously considering whether or not I block, and I think I do decide to do it, since if they get something it gets rid of it. Yeah, and that would be more useful later. It prevents a fair bit of damage. Probably not 100% the best, but it's something I can work with. Ajani I'd like to get down, but once again I don't think it's the time for it. I might decide to play it anyway, but I genuinely don't think that would have been the right play. And yeah, obviously I'm thinking as well. I think Terramander, keeping up Tail's End. Although, yeah, I guess Depose Deploy also works. But, looks like I've decided instead to just go as wide as possible. I think I'm expecting Dovin to die. I'm expecting him to take a couple of hits here. Yeah. And no blocks, I think. Or am I going to champ block? Yeah, I think that's the hard decision, but I do think that just losing Dovin's better, since otherwise I'm trading 2 creatures in to keep him alive to create 1 creature, when the alternative I can do is not do that, have him die. I've got 5 mana so I can play him again if I want to, and then I've got Unbreakable Formation up. I also have Unbreakable Formation and Tail's End, so I can use that, get a good attack in, and then have Tail's End ready to go. Yeah, I'm not so sure about that attack. Okay, Heraldic Banner comes in, naming white. This does mean that they've guaranteed their Ketra next turn. Oh, I know what I'm planning on doing. It's the deploy, I think. So yeah, I deploy, I get 2 more Thopters, and then I have a much bigger board state for that Unbreakable Formation. So yeah, I can now Unbreakable Formation, keep up the Tail's End for the Ketra, get a big swing in, have blockers. Yeah, this is a good setup. Because I now threaten lethal. So they attack anyway. There's no real need to block. Although I think that's a mistake. I mean, I've got lethal. But at least this way it gets rid of their flyer, so they've no longer got a flyer at all. And yeah, it does at least. I mean, I guess it didn't even help with that. But it does mean that this turn they've not played out Ketra. I can now drop Dovin. No, I can drop Ajani. So yeah, I can drop Dovin, but Ajani's better at this stage, since I can then create the soldier token, the Pride Mate. I've now got the Tail's End open, which I could use to counter that, and I think I do. Yeah. Oh, Tail's End. The counter ability bit is so relevant sometimes. And then I can Mystic Sanctuary to grab back anything from the graveyard there. Well, one of my instance of sorceries, which I think is like Tail's End, Winged Words, and Unbreakable. But yeah, now I get 2 Pride Mates. I get to grow them with Dovin. I can drop my Dawn of Hope. Dropping the Sanctuary first. And yeah, get the Unbreakable formation. Go in for the kill next turn. Not sure why I particularly wanted the blue mana open, but oh well. It does mean I do give them an open play of a Ketra, but I think that that's fine, because I now just gain life. I
don't enjoy seeing things suffer, but I'll make an exception for you.
I think I can afford to pay once, yep. Can't afford to do it and play the Vandal though, but I don't think that's too much of a problem.
I sense the good in you.
Yeah, because now my Pride Mates are big enough to lethal on their own, and also Ketra can't kill them, and they'll kill a Ketra. So yeah, that's a pretty clean game. I mean, that technically stops it from dying, but doesn't matter still. So yes, that went incredibly smoothly. I'm quite happy with how the deck's turned out in this set. Even though there's only been a few additions, I think getting a bit more focused on flyers has helped tremendously. And I could, as I said, still put in, and probably should put in, at least a board wipe, just in case. But yeah, so far so good. And with that in mind, take care, and I'll see you guys next time.